what is the state of technological innovation in our legal industry, in our legal systems? So what you take us through the pressing issues or challenges within the African legal landscape.
Thank you very much. So, um, I'll start off by giving a background of who I am. I was first trained as an engineer, and as an engineer, what you're trained to do is to build systems and solve problems, basically. But I looked at Africa and I looked at the continent generally and country specific, maybe Sierra Leone, and different parts of the world. The problems we faced are very structural problems. They're systemic. And so they're not problems that are solved with just the knowledge of engineering, of problem solving. And that's inspired me to venture into law, to understand the structural deficiencies in our society. And a bridge between the two is important. That is justice and legal innovation generally. How can we bring the two together to scale access? Because for someone who lived in a country where there has been war, and we spent most of our early years in the refugee camps and as with our family members, we know what it looks like when law breaks down, when the rule of law is not upheld, when society breaks down to the bare minimum. We know what that means to ordinary people who want to go about their lives. So it means a lot when we ignore the justice system and think we can fix economic problems, we can fix agriculture. We forget the heartbeat of everything within any jurisdiction. So because of that, I had to bring myself closer to these two spaces and see where we can solve problems. So the problem is big, is enormous. I have participated in several conversations with other members, other colleagues from across the continent, from South Africa to Uganda to different places around justice innovation. How can we innovate within the justice system? Part of the conversation has been how can you inject advocacy? So it's always been advocacy. How can you um, revolt against the system? How can you bring radical approach to challenging the system generally? Um, and I had a different thought always, like the fundamental pillars of the justice system. I mean, take criminal justice, for instance, whether it's the police, the courts, the ministries of justice hosting the state officers, the state councils, and the prisons. These are four limbs, four pillars, different institutions configured differently in different parts of the continent, led by different people. In Rwanda, you'd have judicial police that reports to the AG. In Sierra Leone, the police is separate and distinct from the law office, and they are under the Ministry of Internal Affairs. So different configurations across the continent. But forgetting the fact that when these institutions don't collaborate, it affects the delivery of justice generally. So I was curious and wanted to see what can be done to solve a problem like that. So it is still decay. It is still a problem in the continent. We still think we can't fix the mainstream justice system, but progress has been made over the years. Research has been conducted by several institutions to showcase that there is need for justice innovation for us to innovate and change everything largely. So I'll give an anecdote about law and medicine. I would say a doctor who died in 1960. If we can go to the grave and wake that doctor up today, would not be able to administer medicine right now because I mean several things like cancer, Ebola, COVID, all these things, new things in the world now. But a judge who died in 1960 would pass a decent verdict today. Again, so that's how the law has been stagnated and fixed because society is evolving. Though, even though maybe things like cybersecurity law and other things would be a complex thing for that judge to decipher. Talk less of AI. But generally, progress has been made within the landscape across the continent, and we keep pushing and we keep advocating for more reforms and better ways to innovate. Yeah.
You have mentioned a lot. I mean, at some point I wanted to stop you, but I want you to flow. But amongst the things you mentioned the intersections of these institutions in the legal industry. You mentioned the police, the prison and all. So amongst all of these that you've mentioned, all these institutions, which one do you think, where does digital transformation ranks right now? When we're talking about the court, law firms, government institution, what do you think is more pressing? I want us to, to first of all establish a problem here before we take this discussion further. Is there a problem? And if it's yes, what is the problem? And if we've discovered the problem, then what is the solution?
So, I mean, we can limit this to the problem for now, which is easy to talk about. Solution is more difficult, and we'll spend time talking about different ways to go about it. But that's fantastic. I think largely it is risky to say you are rating one institution against the other, but it is safe to say some parts of the judicial system, take criminal justice, police have tried to innovate largely because of other investments and all. And it will shock you to know in some African countries, there's been huge investment, millions of dollars injected into reforms, whether building systems or training personnel to become better and be reformed and serve people in a more enhanced way. And that has not succeeded. Most projects, white elephant project, they've not moved the needle. But I normally say these are three nerves. They're four nerves, and because they're four nerves, the lack of performance of one would result to the inefficiency of all. Would let you see that the entire justice system. So what people don't understand, what citizens don't see, is there's a difference between these institutions. Police, they have their own mandate, and the Ministry of Justice have a mandate. So take for instance pretrial detainees. Pretrial detainees in all prisons are to be they are in the custody of state councils. They're in custody of the AG's office and the Minister of Justice. So he handles those pre-trial diseases, those on remand and on trial. The speedy nature of those trials requires the Justice Ministry to be on top of the situation, the Attorney General's office to be on top of the situation. Take police as well. The police would do the necessary investigations. For certain jurisdictions, you have to pass this through the law office to be able to screen them and say they meet the threshold for prosecution. And or police filing to court or helping try these matters as a substitute for the state's councils. All of that, the various institutions working together affect the outcome of justice generally. And so when it gets to court, the courts are clogged with these fights. And it would look like the police is not doing his work, or the state council, the prosecutor is not doing a better job. Or maybe a call is made for someone to show up in court today from the prisons, and it's not automated to know that these people are scheduled for hearing tomorrow. So these are tiny things that could be solved with technology, but we just ignore it completely, and we think we should just live life like that. It's like a jungle. Everybody, you wake up in the morning, they're scouting out to look for those who are supposed to go to court today. The same for police who are just to be prosecuted today. It is chaotic. It is not helping, it's adding more chaos to it. So, and more institutions are created now by several states in the continent, whether it's the graft, anti-graft, the commissions of corruption across the continent. Some of them prosecute. Whether it is immigration offices across the continent. In Ghana, for instance, they have prosecutorial powers, they have arresting powers, and can take someone to court. So several of these things are just adding up to the complexity of how justice should be delivered. So no institution is above the other, because one effect on one affects the entire value chain largely. So we have to treat them as one. And that has been my thinking, my thesis over the years, that these institutions have to be seen as one by the citizen.
You've been an engineer for a while, and to some people, especially lawyers that I know, the when you tell them about there is something called AI, or all they know about AI is Chat GPT, or or something close to Chat GPT. So I mean, give us a background understanding of what AI is, or what is this thing called artificial intelligence.
So for a layman, or for an ordinary person, artificial intelligence, it is saying machine intelligence, meaning these phones we carry, these computers we carry, can generate content and can think like human beings. which is the superior part of the thinking we're trying to push, or everybody's trying to push across the world, from Silicon Valley, everywhere. It's about superior intelligence or super intelligence, largely, which is trying to match human thinking. But clearly, at this level, human beings are very complex, are very complex beings. So it is difficult to compare machines to human beings because you may be driving home and you don't even need to look at certain street signs. Your subconscious mind can take you home largely because you're familiar with the route and everything. But a machine has to have a visual image, if it's a self-driving car, to see which objects are in front of it and make a computation of those objects before it can drive safely across those objects. So AI is saying you feed a machine with information, you train it over time. It's just like you train kids. When they wake up, when they're young, they teach them how to work, and you start teaching them how to feed, how to eat, how to pee safely, and how to work, and all of it until they get to school. They start learning how to recite letters and all of that. So the machine is being trained to attend to human questions, and it's feeding off huge quantity of data to be able to construct sentences. That is just one way. To be able to interpret visual images, meaning have a picture of something and it tells you this is a supermarket, this is an office space. So it's bringing different objects and creating an image or a scene of what that image constitutes, the different things it sees in the image, and claims that this is an office. It may be wrong. So you correct it and say, oh, this is not an office. This is a broadcasting house. This is a podcast station. So you train it the next time, it remembers certain elements, certain features of that space. But it's not new. This started long ago in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and a lot of work has been done. It is just new to many people because when you see the outcome as ChatGPT, but ChatGPT is not all AI.
I
It's
mean,
not all
hang on.
about AI.
That's where I want us to go. Now, before we go there, I was having a conversation with a colleague a couple of days ago, and then I told him, because I discovered during my studies, as you said, in my robotics and artificial intelligence law class, that um, artificial intelligence doesn't start today. It has been around since the 1950s, and there's been several ups and downs up to where we are today. That now that we have Gen AI. So I mean, on the legal industry, purposely, without trying to divert the topic of today. Um, what are the types of different AI that you've come across or that you know of that the legal industry can benefit to solve some of the issues and problems that we've already established at the beginning of this discussion?
Thank you very much. I think it is important to roll back a little bit that several major interventions or innovations have taken place across uh, this century. Um, One of them is the internet. The internet changed many things. It changed the way we communicate. Today we can talk because of the internet. You're somewhere in Europe and I'm somewhere in Africa, and we're talking, and everybody's seeing us across different channels. It changed and democratized access to information and several things as well. Banks latched onto it. Lawyers learn how to work remotely, how to work collaboratively, how to file cases using the internet. The phone came and the phone changed many things as well. Um, but I would say to anybody listening to this that this is the biggest change we have seen in human history, especially when it comes to law. I would not say that for certain disciplines, but when it comes to law, this is the biggest change that we would ever experience as a human race when it comes to law, because law has been a very conservative profession, but fundamentally, it is a knowledge profession. And anything knowledge is a good space for AI, meaning I don't need to practice for 20 years to understand a particular procedure. AI will just teach me that in 5 minutes. And I have a knowledge acquired by someone over 20 years just in 5 minutes. I don't need to read 100 cases overnight to prepare for a matter tomorrow. I would bunch million cases now with AI and dissect them and find out which of those cases weigh higher for my matter, for the facts I have in my case. So it is taking off human load. Those things we used to do, those legacy things we used to cherish within the profession. To say you have to stay around, you have to listen to arguments, you have to see how people do these things, and notch your skill and dot the i's, cross the t's. You learn it over time. AI is making that accessible with the touch of a button. So that is changing drastically. And within the continent, several people have been doing a lot of work before this massive explosion of conversations around AI. A lot of them were not even machine learning; it was just basic automation. I have friends from Ukraine who were doing document automation. How can you create an M&A? How can you create an NDA using a template? So you just make a choice of certain things and it constructs the document. How can you create a particular template of a document? And those things were the people have been working on these things for donkey years, lease agreements, anything you can imagine. So they were documenting these things. And several tech startups were in Silicon Valley doing all of these things for different legal Zoom, and different companies were doing this across the world. And then in Africa, you had several innovators who were also busy. In Nigeria, you have Gavel that allows citizens to interact with the state, or lawyers using chatbots, WhatsApp specifically, and ask certain constitutional questions, and it will be answered just like that. And several ways people have used this, and with the evolution now with AI and the different stable models now that are out there in the open source model around Llama, and that is Facebook's model, it is changing how these conversations are taking place largely. So access is given to these tools. What we are missing out in Africa is we're not involved in building the fundamental blocks of AI. We're not involved. We're just beneficiaries. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the energy. We don't have what it takes to build the building blocks. So we have to leverage the building blocks and reduce the biases, which we will talk about later, and the biases that come with AI as well. Whilst it is fantastic and phenomenal, but the biases are huge that we have to deal with as a continent. It is the second wave of colonization possibly we would face in the machine age. How can you have a perception in UK enter your society? Because if everybody's interacting with AI, it just sticks. That's the information you have. It's what the machine has provided. So are you colonized afresh? But efforts have been made. Several innovations have taken off in the continent. Several people have worked on several AI models now, basic smaller models to train them on specific things in the continent. And the law is no exception. There is a lot of work happening along that space. So as we go along, we would name some of them as we continue this conversation.
I want you to take us, I mean, teach us some of the tricks, you use to enhance your day-to-day work. I mean, I know you play with the codes, so we would like to know how you get through the day and how you enhance productivity in your field of work.
Yeah, thank you. So I mean, I'll speak to the audience largely about this. If there is any moment in the history of our lives as people of this century, it is to embrace this tool. But like you said earlier on, it is there to help us solve human problems. What does not change in anything we do around society is people's problem. The human problem does not change. It's the same problems we want. And we want a better way to do things. Whether it is food delivery, we want it fast. When we order it, we want to deliver as fast as possible. Um, whether it's getting thoughts compiled, like you said, do your research, you want it done as quickly as possible. So the human being, our problems have always been the same. We just want speed. We just want to get things done faster, easier, in a simple way. So largely, it is there to augment. So don't be afraid that AI is going to take your job. It is going to reduce the number of people that are supposed to do some work, but it is not there to take your job. It is there to augment your work, especially with law. Law is a unique profession and it's different. Um, the law is beyond just the basics or literal nature of certain text document. There's morality injected into law. There's emotions. If a judge is passing a verdict to say, if you raise a defense of alibi, for instance, and you look at your status and know, indeed, you can't be in two places with this status at the same time. So it is human. That's a human being making a decision. A machine would find that difficult to decide on those matters. So the profession itself would benefit a lot from augmentation, amplifying what lawyers do best and ease the burden on lawyers. So if you look at daily tasks of lawyers, research takes conservatively 70% of your work. If a lawyer is preparing to go to court, the research work is where you see the best lawyers, where they excel. That is where they bring together their thoughts, bring all their cases, every document they want to rely on, they bring it up. And that leads to a better advocacy. I mean, at the end of the day, it leads to better writing, better opinion writing, or better advice to your client. So the research work, and that is where AI is the finest guy for research work. If you think of it, I mean, in some countries now we have the legal repository of cases, of judgments, of different things. In Sierra Leone, for instance, you have Sierra Leone, Nigeria is Nigeria, and different countries across the continent. So that is an effort to document some of these things, and it is one step closer to now making use of AI. So what AI is saying now, if I need to do anything related to a case, what I have to spend time on now is to dig up the relevant things I rely on. I know you're familiar with other tools, not the ones that are specific to the legal profession, like the Do Not Pay or the Harvey AI, but take the one, for instance, that everybody knows about research, that is the Notebook LM. And how do I bring together all my findings, the different statutes I rely on, the different case laws that I've extracted, and you bunch that, and you now inject conversations into the AI, which is prompting. And an understanding of prompting is very important because you need to understand how the machine understands human input. And how do you tell the machine? So if you just randomly ask the machine, give me A, it will scramble around and give you 50 A's and possible instances of A and then give you examples. So, but if you tell him the characteristics of that A that you want and how it should look like, and even color it, and even give it some styling, for instance, to say, I want it bold, I want it different, I want it standing tall, or give me a font of this type. So it will give you that specific answer. And what I also tell people mostly around the use of AI in modern day, which we would also talk about the dangers of it, by the way, the early use of it when people just latch onto it and think it can answer all their questions first at first instance. And remember how we started this conversation? It is research work. I've gathered what I need to understand, but it is too much, and I have 3 days. The AI says, provide all of this for me, feed it into the AI, and then ask questions. The AI will bring all of these contents together and make sense of them and tell you this is how you can structure your conversation and all of that. So it's about research augmentation within the law. It's about case management. It's about contract review. You have to review a contract that is 50 pages. What are you looking for? Is a specific clause? Is a specific violation of a particular clause of the contract, and you don't even want to go through all those maybe 100 clauses. The AI can just extract and tell you exactly which of the clauses, and which is also linked to another clause you may have ignored if you were reading right through. So a lot of this comes in handy when you also know your work, you know what you're looking for, and you know. So AI is the tool for the best lawyers, I would say. It is a tool for very grounded lawyers who understand the fundamentals of the law and how to go about their research work and put it together. And so it's a clarion call. Everybody should tune to AI. It is here to render you, I would not say useless, but it will render your work not valuable if you're not careful. Because you would spend hours doing something that another man will spend 30 minutes doing, and he would come out as top notch, as one of the greatest thinkers, but he's aided by a machine. And the machine is his co pilot, he's riding with him to the court. I'll hold it there for now for the comments. Yeah.
One thing that is clear from from what you said is that AI is not here to replace us. Rather, it is here to help us. It's just like you have, just consider it like you have a new smart and intelligent pupil in the farm, and someone that you can go to, you can trust, you can ask for help, and then you referenced Google LM. I mean, people, you should go now and check it. It's called Google
Notebook.
Notebook
Yeah.
LM, Notebook
LM.
LM, NOTEBOOK there with LM. Just search it on Google. I mean, it's a magic. You like it because one thing that it's different from other models is that on Google LM, you feed it the source, you give it your source. So you have to do your research. For example, you have your statutes, you have your case laws, you have your contract, you have everything with you. Just put everything in that model, and then you start asking it question. One thing that is clear from all of this, just as you said, and what my professor of robotics and AI law once told me in class, is that it's never going to be possible for the AI to replace lawyers. I mean, even if it will happen, the law will be the last and final thing. We are going to look at some of the comments on Facebook now, but before we go there, I want us to pause at this juncture and get another, 2 or 3 minutes commercial break. Just take some water. If you want to go to the bathroom, you go to the bathroom as we come now and discuss the risk and the position of the legal framework in Africa. So keep viewers, keep it locked in. Stay with us as we come back and discuss, continue the discussion with AI and the future of the law in Africa. Welcome back, viewers. If you're just tuning in, this is your program Legal Tech for Africa with me, Mohamed Uriba. Today I have with me Sorieba Daffae, who is a tech entrepreneur, an engineer, and a lawyer who has been in the legal in the tech industry for the past 18 years. And we are currently discussing the potential of AI in the continent of Africa and how we can tap into those potentials for the legal industry. So we have been discussing the potentials and the goodies that AI is bringing to the table for the legal industry. So now we are going to discuss the risk that this beautiful new legal intern comes with. And you mentioned prompts, how to use prompts, because knowing how to use prompts is one way to using AI responsibly, because that's the catchword here. That's why we have in all the laws, all the legal frameworks, all the policies is for the responsible use of AI. So, but let's discuss now the risk. What do you think? What this beautiful thing? What does it comes with?
Yeah, so the tons of risk that we must be aware for any innovation, any technology that has changed the human race. It comes with huge risk that we also should be aware of. But quick one on prompting. Prompting, just quickly on that. Prompting is what you feed the AI to ask a question. So see it like you're talking to a kid. If I talk to a kid and say, go get me the brown bottle of water and bring it over, go to the dispenser and fill it. That is a very clear instruction. It could be clearer than that, but that's a clear instruction. But if I say, just give me a brown bottle of water and fill it with water, where do you fill it? It's the dispenser. So it's like talking to a child. If you don't give clear instructions, you don't get the outcome you desire. So it is important, and that's prompting. Prompting is very precise, it's very accurate, very clear, and you can reverse prompt. I call this reverse prompting in the sense that if you don't know how to tell the machine what to do, you can ask the machine, how do I ask this? It will tell you how to ask it because the machine understands how it receives instructions, and you'll be shocked. If you give it a line, say, I want to do ABC, give me a sample prompt, how do I do this? It will give you an elaborate instruction of how this should be done, so which you will not think about. So that's on prompting. On the risk of AI, the risk and ethical considerations are all around. It has been the debate in US and several other places. There's a huge risk to it, especially for those of us in Africa, because we're like consumers of AI. We're not providing the fundamental building blocks of AI. We're not participating in that discussion. So we're just consumers. Whether you're using ChatGPT has no knowledge of specific legislation in Sierra Leone or how the judicial system works. It has no context. So you would ask it sometimes, it will give you some US instructions because it's fed with US information. Maybe try DeepSeek. DeepSeek is a bit censored. It will tell you something that is Chinese bias and all of that. So these biases are going to exist over time. But because as Africa, we're not investing. And so it is also good that as a continent, the AU has started discussing the African Union framework, that is the continental AI strategy, to make sure at the first phase of it, that is 2025 to 2026, last year, that we focus on AI governance. I mean, individual countries, how do we set up the framework for governance? We have huge data within the continent, but how do we transform, whether it's artistry or arts, anything you can imagine within the continent? There's a huge set of data. Don't see AI data as just text data or as papers written. It could be any form of data that can find its way. So the form factors are changing and all of that. So the risk is immense. Bias is one of the risks. One of the risks we stand to face. Like I said very early on in the conversation, it is possible that is the next wave of colonization, because if we're feeding off all this data from the West, how do we have context? And the machine only knows what you feed it, and those who train these models feed it with the information that is available on that side of the world. But good enough, the continent, there has been investment by some entrepreneurs who are looking at how do we train models on languages. Africa has the widest spread of languages in the entire world. How can you have that woman speaking Yoruba in Nigeria, or that man speaking Fula in Sierra Leone, to talk to an AI chatbot and understand the law, understand certain things, fundamentals, certain things about history, and that is important. So we need to take AI to the next level, but we also have to participate at the lowest level of the conversations right now. We're missing out simply because, and I said this earlier on, we don't have the required infrastructure right now. We don't have the required energy, the intellectual base, I mean, the human resource that are capable enough to understand what AI means, because we can only appreciate the risks of AI if we participate in the conversations around AI. Just like you're saying, until you have a deeper understanding of how these models think and how they're trained, you will not see the risk immediately, but the risks are immense, and we're going to be coming across them, whether it's deep fake, whether it's fake news, whether it's election times. You would have all sort of pages showing up and posting contents that are just generated by AI, that would affect democracy completely. It will affect several things, largely within the continent. So we have to be conscious of that, but we all have to tune into this moment and understand what AI is. Don't let anybody tell you. Go there. If your first use of ChatGPT is to understand AI at the fundamental level and see what it can do for you. How can you use it as a tool to achieve what you want to do daily, and in your profession and in anything you do around your work. Yeah.
Thank you very much. You said everything. I don't think there's much to add there. The risk are enormous. We have to be careful. This is my focus area in my dissertation. I'm writing on data grab and digital colonialism, and how Africa is left to consume everything. We are the massive tech giants in the West. The worst part of it, because you look at countries like China and elsewhere in the Far East, they have their own infrastructure, but we do not have. We rely entirely on the West. So, say for example, we also what happened when Facebook or WhatsApp went down some time ago last year, and everybody suffered that. How a tech company based in the US can affect that large amount of people in a continent so far away. So there is a clarion call out there. Well, we have to do something, and that's the risk, and that's a big risk. Let's take some comments. Viewers, please don't mind my angle, because my other monitor is on this part. So this is where I monitor and look at the comments. And the first comment we have here is from Umu Kultum Sise. She said, I agree with you, Sorieba. The legal system in Sierra Leone is highly reserved. Much of the international and regional legal system has progressed extensively compared to ours, and in respect of technological innovation in the legal system. This has made practice for Sierra Leonean lawyers in general in regional court like the ECOWAS, sorry, and international courts very difficult. Our courts and legal systems are desperately in need of legal innovation, and the legal system cannot afford to be traditionally reserved and technologically illiterate in a digital world as of today. So, Iba, that's a good one. What's your take on that?
I mean, she can say it better than me. She can say it better than me. I mean, it is important to know that our lawmakers and the entire landscape of governance, I mean, the framework around AI and even the legal system to tune it to these modern realities of the world is important. I mean, um, whether it affects us or it doesn't affect us immediately, it is going to affect us. You may have heard of cases of lawyers taking cases from ChatGPT and making citations in court from ChatGPT, and it's scary to know that people don't understand that people can go that far. But that's the damage you cause when there's no clarity either from a framework standpoint or from a knowledge standpoint as well. So these conversations are very important to make sure we also understand and see the gaps that exist within our frameworks, as well as what we do individually to make sure we enhance this ecosystem. But yeah, I think I totally agree with that comment, and it's widespread in the continent. Yeah.
Okay, but we
Okay.
take another one from um, um, this is Jimo Mohammed Tajuddin. Mohammed Tajuddin said AI is built and programmed by humans. Well, which we've been saying, which means it reflects our intentions, our biases, and our limits. But AI can still be a powerful tool in the legal field. However, you're absolutely right. I think he's referring to you, Soriba. Humans must always supervise the human in the loop context. AI doesn't understand context, ethics, and or justice. It processes data. First, lawyers bring judgment, empathy, and accountability. AI just helps them work faster and more precisely. It's not about replacing lawyers; it's about empowering them. Of course, I think this is what we've been saying, Soriba, from the beginning of this stream. I don't know if you want to add something there from what
Yeah.
Jimo.
Yeah, that's totally right. I mean, things like fairness, things like transparency, things like inclusivity, these are things you can't get from AI, just like you said as well. What you feed it is what you get. So those biases are there. The one who fed it may have given some context that does not exist. So, I mean, a case in point is anybody using DeepSeek from China. Um, the story is narrated differently if you ask the same question across the different platforms, because this is a Chinese model and it's trained to also answer certain questions, specific ways. And so if you use Gemini or any other AI tool and ask the same question, you would get a different response from another perspective. So everybody's fighting to infuse their own. So it's a form of colonization. Everybody's trying to communicate their stance in the world, that is the human positions we hold, into the next generation of conversations, that is in the machines, so that even kids to come, when they interact with these machines, what they see are the realities of the conversations we have today and the biases we carry. So we have to find ways not to be governed by those biases. We have to find ways of protecting ourselves from this part of the world because we've suffered for too much, for too long. And it's a better time to really tune into these conversations and see what can we do very early on in the phase of AI, because every technology gets to a stability period and AI has not been stable yet. So it is getting there. That's why you see researchers as the entrepreneurs. Any technological phase, when it stabilizes, the scientists go back to the lab. They leave it to business people. And AI is one industry, it has not gotten there yet. And when it gets there, you would see the scientists now who find themselves as entrepreneurs will leave that space because it's going to be commercialized, it's going to be transformed into different things. And you see those who build do not pay typically just entrepreneurs who are out there. And so they even run into issues and conflict with the law, the way they provide this guidance, because there are regulations in US around certain tickets, advice, and all of that claims and should pass through a human lawyer. And they were aiding that as well. So it comes with its own nuances, but we have to deal with that as well as the biases we talk about. But that's great to know from you as well. Your perspective is also immensely valuable about not replacing human beings, and we are cognitively powerful machine. We're different. You sleep and you dream, and it takes you 30 seconds, and you dream like you spent a year in some environment. So that's the human subconscious mind playing and doing things which no machine can replicate. Nowhere. Thank you.
Let's take one more comment from Mohammed Lamrana. Lamrana said Sierra Leone struggles to tap into resources that foster convenience. It is good we having these discussions to make life easier for legal professionals. I think what we've done here today, we've not only talked about, I mean, yeah, the concentration was around the legal industry, the justice system, the legal system, but we've also went beyond, and we've discussed the potential generally AI itself has in our country, in the continent of Africa. So let's dissect a little and now talk about the elephant in the room. You know, I have looked at most of the legal regimes currently in Africa, including Nigeria's data protections regimes, including Kenya, South Africa, and Rwanda's AI policies. And one thing that is clear from the onset is that most of these regimes, most of these laws, most of these policies coming out from these African countries are a reflection of the laws within the European Union. Of course, the European Union, the EU, has taken a lead in regulating technology with the Digital Services Act, with the Digital Markets Act, with the AI Act, of course, the big one, the GDPR, and so on and so forth, etc. And what I have observed is that most of these laws are a reflection of the EU. Is that we're not making our own, and our social context, our legal context, our cultural context is quite different from the Europeans. The Europeans are very individualistic people. Africa, of course, we pride ourselves with the Ubuntu philosophy, where we put community first. We look for the greater good. We have a utilitarian approach to life generally, but we're just imbibing laws. So what do you think? Where do we stand in terms of, especially with this? I mean, we've seen deepfakes. Deepfakes is Gen AI. We know what deepfakes can do. I was telling a colleague the other day that the next election will be won by deepfakes in Sierra Leone and in other places in Africa. We've seen since January of 2023 the propagation of this guy in Burkina Faso, Traore. I mean, making him as the Moses of Pan-Africanism, all with built with the London-based synthesis app, which is deepfake. Most of it is false. It's not true. But and in a society like Africa, which the people are so gullible, they believe in whatever they see. No, they don't question things. They don't do. With all due respect to us, but we do not approach things with critical minds. And we have this tool that it's in the hands of the guys in PZ with their laptop computers, and they can generate whatever. I mean, remember when Photoshop came, and we have deepfake now, So what? How do we regulate this thing? I mean, it's a big worry for me when I do my research and see things. I say to myself, this is the moment this will get to Africa, because we have not been exposed to AI yet. I mean, all we've had is ChatGPT. The AI that I've seen, if it's that AI cross the seas and get to Africa, trust me, it will be catastrophic if we do not have legal frameworks in place, because they will take a video to the court showing someone killing someone, and that will be admitted. And that was my concern with the new Criminal Procedure Act in its provision of admitting electronic evidence in court. What if someone develops something with deepfake, you know, and then shows the defendant killing, which it can be done with prompt. It can be done with a prompt. You can tell the model show so and so person killing and make it as if it was a CCTV camera. And there was one video that was during the coup d'etat in November that was shown that someone was shown holding a gun, which part of the defendants in the I don't know if the trial is still ongoing. I've not been following lately, but when I arrived in the UK and I looked at that thing once again, I said, what if this was done by a prompt, which can be produced by powerful tools that I've seen, that I've laid my hands on? So how do we regulate this um, monster that we've created? Like Frankenstein monster, we have also created a monster, and that monster must be tamed. And Frankenstein tried to kill that monster. What can we do? Do we have to kill this monster, or can we tame it to benefit us and benefit our generations yet to come?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Barr. I think AI is akin to the nuclear age. It is a bomb we're building. It can be curtailed, it can be controlled, um, it can be constrained, and given bounded context, if you want to, as a people. But most times when I say this, from a point of legislation, that because that's what we miss largely. And I heard you say most of our legislations are borrowed legislation. So sometimes they even mistake and leave some country name there without changing some fundamental details until it comes to the Gazette, and someone would raise some basic error and say this has to be corrected and all of that. So normally, when it comes to that, my appeal everywhere is to say we need agile, principles-based regulation. So not just rules, but values like fairness, accountability, and transparency should be injected into the law. Like you said, those Evidence Act, Electronic Evidence Act, largely should be augmented now to match with the possibilities now, meaning you're opening the floodgates, any electronic evidence that is difficult to tell. So because the AI industry is also trying to make sure these contents are watermarked, they're labeled, that they are generated by AI. But you can't get it all right. There are still bad people around who would help generate some of this content. So what is missing in the continent is legislators, because they're busy politicking, they're not interested in talking to experts. In UK, there's an expert community that even lead conversations and even provide guidance and write to the states, advise the parliament on certain things, on evolutions, on things happening around the AI. In US, you see the Senate inviting some of these big players in AI, talking to them, grilling them for hours. Our legislators don't have that time. It is either they're dancing with our people, or they're busy fighting each other. But the monster is here. It is risky if we allow this not curtailed. But I'll drill this a little bit. I'll double click on the area of citizens care for citizens. Privacy is a missing element. So if you look at EU, as you mentioned, one of the three key giants in the world, they got it right with GDPR. When you solve privacy, you're putting power in the hands of the ordinary citizens first. So any technology that comes, any evolution, anything that comes, whether it's AI or what have you, data leaks are going to take place. Those data sets are going to be used for some other purposes to commit offenses and other things in the cyberspace. AI would amplify that, because if I'm using card data to commit an offense, AI would allow me use this card data on million sites now, just with one instruction. Unlike before now, I would have to personally interact with these various sites. Now you can interact with the sites through your interactions, like the operators built by OpenAI recently. So data privacy is a key component of all of this. So if states cannot prioritize data privacy, as we speak, Sierra Leone does not have a data privacy law. We're still dealing with the Cybersecurity and Crime Act, that is largely pro-state, which is not citizens-led. How do you let the citizens protect their data? How do you citizens seek redress for a misuse of their data, which is important. The danger around that is if you don't protect that now, and AI would be used to extract our NCRA data the next day, and is used for million purposes. By the time we wake up in the morning, is all we're all in a different country. Everybody's data is out there. Different things would have taken place. The country is totally upside down. So how do we seek redress if those people are held culpable? And the only way to seek redress is through data privacy law, because that's the power that you have as a citizen. If my data is leaked by the state, if my data is leaked by a big corporate enterprise who is using my data for that purposes of identity, but negligent in the management of that data and exposes that. So the dangers of AI, the building blocks to making sure we curtail the dangers of AI, we've not done anything. Largely, most of the data privacy regimes across the continent are mostly around the state trying to protect their power, trying to protect control, and trying to put democracy under control largely. It is not really to put their hand. So a moment is coming, like you said, deepfake and other things. A guy would sit somewhere around the world and controlling elections in countries. And when that happens, even the state does not know how to deal with that. If you give that power for citizens to be able to seek redress when things like those happen, when those people are held culpable. So the next um, the next war criminals are going to be found around that space, around the cyberspace where they would use AI to inject to cause more mayhem. So we have to build the building blocks. Whilst it's AI regulation, maybe we don't have the sophistication to deal with AI, but we have knowledge of the fundamental details like data privacy. How can we protect individual data? Because we start there. Until then, we levy responsibilities, we give responsibilities, or make sure institutions carrying data are responsible enough to manage and control this data for the ordinary citizens. Else, AI would just grow that. So, see, think of AI as the guy who multiplies the effect of anything you can imagine. So, if data privacy is not given, if control is not given, if accountability is not given, then AI would make that better for everybody, albeit worse for the human race. Thank you, Mr. Bar.
My friend and colleague, classmates from Thailand, Puandit Skodalare, we call him Eric. He said, so the question is, should us smart lawyers start taking the jobs of those lawyers who are still worried AI will take theirs? I think he's just poking us. But Soriba, it's been a wonderful time with you. I'm not sure we will be able to have the time to take all the comments from Facebook. We've already went beyond the time that we would have got the program for, but it's fine. An hour 30 minutes. It's so great. I mean, it's not even enough to talk about everything we have to talk about. But one thing I like is that you are also in my school, which is the client call to use it well, and then also regulation, because there are people who think we are over-regulating um, um, technology, especially those scholars from the US. I mean, because the US is a free markets driven economy, one that prioritizes innovation and foster technology. But the thing is, if we do not regulate whatever it is, I mean, there's a philosopher who said, without law, we live like we're in the jungle. Without law, society will be like a jungle. So it's the same thing. I mean, that's why when I arrived here and then I started seeing these risks and reflecting it back home, one of my first my first push was to call for a data protection law, which I was so fascinated about, and then I engaged the Minister of Information about it. And then he promised me that yes, there is something down the pipeline, and they're coming with it. And I think it's already heading for Parliament. But we need a data protection law, or else the citizens are at the mercy of the big corporations, and then they are at the mercy of the politicians. And one important thing, when you're making law, especially technology, you don't put politics there. And that's why we got it wrong with the Cybersecurity Act and Cybersecurity and Crime Act, because it's now been used, to club dissent. It's now been used, to there's a particular word I use in one of my essays. I mean, the Cybersecurity Act, it's like it was meant for the political class, to protect the political class. I mean, it's so funny that you can charge someone under the Cybersecurity Act for cyberbullying against the president of the Republic of Sierra Leone. That was the funniest thing that came out from our country last year. And then, I mean, these guys are still using it. And one other thing I discovered, I went to the CID the other day when I was in Sierra Leone, and then I tried to, like, have take a stock of the cyber crime that has been going on in our country, and I realized the police considered phone theft, phone burglary as a cyber crime. So I mean, there is a deficiency there. We do not understand. So it's high time, and this is all of us. We all have that responsibility to get out there, to get people to understand the age we are living in. What we are having currently is a new age, and you know, and when something comes up, we have to try to live with that time. Like the age of the copper age, the iron age, the gold age, all those age mankind survived. And how did they survive? It's because we put things in place. And this is the age of AI. And if we do not put things in place, we will get the bad side of AI instead of the good side. So Sorieba, once again, thank you very much. Before you go, you can give us a 2 minutes reflection, and then we'll close the curtains for today.
Okay. So, I mean, I'll make it brief. My message is to every young person, even old as well, who've been in this space, or you're a citizen. Think of this moment as a great moment in the history of mankind, where access to justice would not be something for few now. It is going to come to you someday. If you can't afford a lawyer, you're able to access the necessary information. So it's happening around the world, and it's going to come to you someday. So your phone can now provide the necessary things you need to understand what to do or what steps to take when something happens to you. And it is largely to the youth that their creativity and openness to tech is needed now. So how can you um, learn in this day and age to understand and tune into this, what is happening, and believe in AI. We believe that AI is going to transform many industries and is going to change law. It's going to change how justice is delivered. It's going to change how people access justice. But it has to be guided ethically, to widen access to justice, not limit it. And so regulation also has a role to play there. So, I mean, it is brief. It is to lawyers, learn the tech. The policymakers, regulate wisely. I mean, inject accountability, privacy, fairness into lawmaking, and think of these moments. If you don't understand what this age is, invite the experts to those conversations. So you make laws that affect and reflect society, as we live in now. And to citizens, demand justice that is both fair and fast. And AI is going to bring that to you largely. Let's build a legal system that is worthy of Africa's future. And Africa is going to be transformed. That would be my parting word. Thank you once more for having me here, and hope to catch up again on these conversations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is Sorieba Daffae. He is a tech entrepreneur, the CEO of Monimi. If you have is a big tech company in particular in West Africa, and also he is a lawyer. And today we have been discussing about the future of the law and AI in Africa and what we can do about it. It has been a pleasure having you, Mr. Sorieba, and look forward to having you again soon. And thank you all to those that tune in and to those that are following us live. It has been wonderful company with you all. And we hope to come back again next Friday, and which we will have a new topic and surrounding legal tech in Africa. And of course, we'll have a guest, and then we will take it from there. So I have been your humble host, Mohamed Wuliba, and I'm trying, this is my own little way, to get the education out there and tell people what we need to do, and where we are, the crisis we're having, and solutions, and indeed there are solutions as has been eloquently established and expressed to us this morning and this evening and morning, this morning now in the UK by our guest Sorieba Daffae. Sorieba, once more, thank you very much for coming, and to all those who logged in and keep following us. Don't forget to tap the follow button. You can find us in every other social media handles. We're on TikTok, we're on we're on X, we're on Instagram, we're also in LinkedIn. Just follow the links on the screen, and let's keep the conversation going. So until we meet again next week, I have been your humble host, Mohamed Oyiba. Thank you very much. See you again. God bless you, and God bless our continent.